My name's John, and I always like to start off saying that I'm a proud citizen and resident of Suriname, the greenest, most forested country on earth. Currently, I'm building a new company together with my team, and the company is called BioTara. Growing up in Suriname, which, is the greenest, most forested country on earth, I actually grew up not knowing that there was a world where there were no trees. I thought it was normal. They were everywhere, in my backyard, the creeks where me and my family would go to hang out on weekends and swim. And I grew up with that. And I think it's really shaped my experience of what it is to just live. Always surrounded by nature, always full on. And I have to say that, when sometimes I travel, I see all these big industrial or urban landscapes, which I think are beautiful to visit. But then I miss my trees. And it always beckons me back. And when I get home and the door of the airplane opens and I get hit with that scent of earth and trees and plants, it's coming home, you know? Whenever I visit one of the communities that I have the privilege of working with, I'm always in awe of the calm that just surrounds everything that the people do. They don't get caught up in the hustle and the bustle. We need to get this done now. It's always about finding the right rhythm. And when I go to these places, it always takes me a day or two. But once I settle into that rhythm that people have who live in the forest, in that deep primary rainforest, it makes you look at things differently. It makes you experience every moment differently because there's so much life and you're part of that life when you're there. And it's that exact life that I'm so keen on finding ways to preserve. Because if we lose that, I'm not really sure what it's going to mean to be human in a planet that is less biodiverse, that is less healthy. And when I go there, throughout the years, I've seen things change a lot. There's this one road that got paved, I think about roughly 10 years ago. And it was it was always this really bumpy road, so you wouldn't go all the time and you couldn't do everything. It would take like 3 to 5 hours to get there, to get to the river. But now it's like an hour and a half. And I can just see the forest dying, left and right, because people are slowly devouring it. But they're not doing it because they hate it. They do it because they feel like they don't have any options. And that's exactly what we're looking to create. We're looking to create options for people who choose to participate in, let's say, Western industrial type living. We're giving them options to participate in that type of economy without destroying the forest. Because they've grown up being exposed to things like internet and different languages and different types of foods, which now they've grown accustomed to. While at the same time, they're losing more and more of their natural habitat. More and more of the ability of the forest to feed them is being diminished. So if we don't find a way for people to coexist, to really thrive economically while also having thriving nature, then it really is a matter of time. And the time is not some abstract thing in the future. It's today. It's tomorrow. And that threat of people not feeling like they have options, I think that's the scariest thing you can have as a human being, when you feel like you have to do something. And when that thing that you have to do is likely to kill you or even the family that you're supposedly doing it for, that becomes a really hard place to be and to exist, right? Because you've got people who feel like they need to mine gold, but they do it using poison. So they're slowly killing themselves and their children, even though they are doing it for their children. So if we don't find ways for local communities that are living with forest to make a living, to have economic agency and economic ability to care for themselves, then that forest is going to go down. There's really no two ways about it. So the best solution that I've found, and I say I, but really it's we, because it's not just me, right? I'm part of a team. The best solution we've found is to tap into something that's culturally known, culturally appropriate, and that's abundantly present, and find a way to connect that to global markets without intermediaries. Which is why I deeply believe that as we support these communities in their desire to enter the world of commerce using wild oils, for example, but making sure they're in control, making sure it's their choice, it's their free choice to participate in this, I think that's what we need to engender, that's what we need to foster, that's what we need to enable. And enabling them to be masters of their own universe, so to speak, not just in nature, but also economically, I believe that's the path forward. And I believe that by creating that capacity and supporting them on a eye-level basis of partnership, I believe that's the best gift that we can give to them and to ourselves. So what BioTara does is we look for communities that are choosing to enter the world of commerce. So we don't go to communities and say, hey, come and do this or come and make that oil. We enter into dialogue and we ask them, hey, are you interested in engaging in direct trade of wild oils with cosmetics companies? And if the answer is yes, and they wish to do so, then we provide the training required to produce the oils at the right quality and quantity that's needed. So that's a big chunk of technology. So we provide technology. We also provide software and hardware, and we configure all the steps that are needed to be able to do business with places like the European Union and the US, places where traceability and transparency are paramount to having market entry. So that's the technology part. Then we spend a lot of time looking at the ecological and the social conditions to make sure that what we consider to be a solution does not end up being a destructive intervention. So that means that we really sit down and we take our time to understand what the community looks like, what their needs are, what their challenges are. And based on that, we then design a benefit sharing mechanism that ensures that profits from doing business go towards resolving these issues. It could be dropout rates, reducing those by introducing child daycare or elderly care so that women are free to continue their schooling. It could be building a university like we're looking to do in Brazil with a community. And then the third part is markets, because the sad fact of it is that people living in the forest don't get the opportunity to sit down with CEOs and big decision makers in these companies. So they're isolated. So even if they have this great product, they have to get it to market. And without these consistent sales activities, it's just not going to work. So that's why we bring the technology, we bring the social safeguarding systems, and we bring the market. But really important around all of that is that we also bring the finance. So for you and me to get a loan from a bank, it's probably not that difficult. But if you grew up and you live in the forest and you don't have huge amounts of land to your name, getting finance is really difficult. So bringing that financial element into the mix so that they have working capital, so that they have investment capital, is an incredibly important piece of the puzzle. And it's one that is not about giving out donations. It's about working with these communities and enabling them to take out whatever kind of loans or financial instruments they need in line with their own productive capacity and their productive wishes, right? Because they need to want to do this. If they want to produce this, let's say a couple of tons of oil a year, they're going to need certain machines. And I want to make sure that they own the machines, because I'm not interested in becoming their boss. I'm their partner, I serve them, which means that they need to own it. A more beautiful Suriname. You know, when I started on this journey, that's the question I would ask myself. But I forgot that Suriname is part of a bigger system. We're part of Amazonia. So I can't answer what a better Suriname looks like without answering what is a more complete or a better Amazonia looks like, because it's one system, it's one people, it's one ecosphere. So I'd like to address what does a more beautiful Amazonia looks like. It looks like one that's more equitable, one that's fair, one where the stewards of the forest, the indigenous, the quilombolas, the maroons, all of these other forest-based communities, where they are equal partners in this global commerce. It's one where they are able to set the rules of engagement and no longer having to beg for attention from the industrialized nations that have colonized and have taken their nature from them. It's one where we're living in partnership. And with that partnership, I believe, will come a fairer, more equitable future. And that's the one that I want to live into. I tell the world two things. First off, nothing is impossible. If your desires are in harmony with the universal principles of what is good, and what is good means it is of service to one another, of service to mankind, of service to nature, then anything is possible. The second thing I want to say is there is such a thing as enough. There is such a thing as enough. We need not take everything. We only need to accept the gifts of nature. And by doing so, respect nature. Don't take the first flower you see. Don't take the first fruit you see. There's enough. Leave that first one for nature. That's what I'd say. There is such a thing as enough. And let's live by that. If there's one thing I'd like to add, it's that throughout the past 13 years or so, I've had the privilege of representing my country at the United Nations Convention of Climate and Biodiversity. I've had the privilege of getting to know incredible indigenous leaders, sitting with them. I've had the chance to rub elbows with, giant movie stars and billionaires and all over. And people always say, oh, we want to make a change. Well, you can. Just do it. Make that change. Let go of these ideas of Western superiority and if you want this, you got to do that. Oh yeah, that's just the rules. No, we make the rules. We can make the rules now. We can live into a new future with new rules that respect indigenous and traditional wisdom. We are not defined by the system that we've created. So if we want change, let's do it. There's nothing holding us back except for the desire and the courage to step into that regenerative future. So let's just do it. I've had the privilege of losing fear. I don't consider myself to be a fierce warrior or anything like that, but I have had the privilege of having been stripped of fear. And I've been stripped of fear because I know that at whatever point in time might be my last breath, I know that I've taken that last breath living my mission. And really there's nothing better than that. So whenever I step into one of these jungle plains and I kind of say goodbye to my my wife and my kids, and I realized, you know, maybe this is it. But I'm good with that, because I know that every moment that I spend in service to this mission that I've made my own makes it worth it. And that's what I love about being me. Hi, my name is John Goedschalk. I'm the CEO and co-founder of BioTara. BioTara is revolutionizing the supply chain and its connection between the cosmetics world and the world of the indigenous and tribal communities of Amazonia. You can find us online at biotara.earth. You can find us on LinkedIn, or you can come and visit us. Come visit us either in Suriname, where we work, or in Brazil, where we have the privilege of working, or even our offices in Basel, which is what we've really focused on. We focused on building that bridge between Europe and Amazonia. So find us on either side, or help us create that bridge.